Hi, my name is Chris, and today we're going to go over how to draw a bat.
The first thing you want to do is get adult supervision. If you're an adult watching this, congrats! Step 1 is done. Although you could still get another adult to supervise you.
The next thing you want to do is get your media together. This means what you'll be drawing with. Today I'm going to show you how to draw a bat with a marker and colored pencils on drawing paper, and with India ink and gouache, kind of like watercolor, on watercolor paper. You can use any paper you like, but with a wet medium, paper with texture is better. And I'll be using a drawing tablet using a computer program to draw my third bat. Next, you'll want to find some source material on the internet. Make sure to find an image that is relatively large so you can zoom in to see better details. With my marker and colored pencil drawing, I'm going to be drawing a Townsend's big-eared bat. I'm going to grab my tools, a pencil and eraser to sketch out my drawing, a black marker to outline, and my colored pencils. I'm going to choose colors to show the highlights or the light parts, the shadows or the dark parts, and then a base color or the color most prevalent in each of my shades. If you don't have all of those colors, don't worry. You can always layer colors to make one. I'm going to start by lightly sketching the bat, keeping in mind that I'll be erasing my pencil marks later, so it's better to keep it barely visible. To help me get my proportions right, I'm going to be measuring using my fingers to determine the size of my lines comparatively to other areas. So you don't have to do this, and you don't have to be proportional. As an artist, you get to have creative license. That means you can make your drawing look any way you like. Alternatively, you can do what my life drawing professor showed me and gesture draw. That's where you make super rough gestures with your pencil, mimicking the lines you see in large, fun strokes. This can be a really fun way to draw. But since I'm going to try for proportions, I'm going to erase my gestures and use my finger to measure instead. Let's fast forward through this next part. If you make a mistake or don't like how it's turning out, feel free to erase parts and redraw. That's another reason it's best to draw lightly during this stage. Once you have your rough sketch, now you're going to outline your drawing with your marker. This is a step where you can add a lot of detail too. So your lines give you a rough estimate of where to put your marker, but you can also add so much detail. If you did a gestural sketch, this is also where you get to decide which line you'll trace and which ones didn't make the cut. After you have your marker down, now you'll erase your sketch. Do it gently and hold the corners of your page so you don't accidentally rip or crease your page. Colored pencils are next. Like I said earlier about picking your colors, I like to pick a highlight, a shadow, and a base color for each section of my drawing. I start with the highlights and mimic what I see on the screen on my drawing. When I'm done with my highlights, I focus just on the shadows. Which part of the bat's body has darker colors on it? Here's a hint. With fur, shadows tend to chase highlights. So highlights are where the fur have moved toward the light, meaning that they've left empty space underneath, which is usually where you can find a shadow. Next, you have your base color. This will be somewhere between the highlight and the shadow colors. I didn't have a good color between the two, so what I decided to do was combine them. I'm going to color and then go over again with my shadow color to come to a color between the two colors. And now I have a marker and color pencil Townsend's Big Ear Bat. Next, I'm going to draw a fringed myotis with India ink and gouache. If you don't have India ink and gouache, you can use watercolor and a marker, or black watercolor for your outline. Again, we're going to find colors that work for highlights, shadows, and bases with all the different hues in our bat, knowing that we can also mix them. For mixing, it's great to have a mixing tray like I do. But you can also use a plate if you're careful keeping the colors separated. You also need a little bit of water for your brush. The first step, just like before, will be to make a light drawing, either with proportions or with gesture drawing, to outline your bat. Let's fast forward through this next part. When you have your drawing the way you want it, you're going to outline with your India ink, marker, or watercolor. I've got a nib and pen and India ink that I'm using here. It's very old, so my lines are going down not quite like I'd like them. But as Bob Ross would say, there are no mistakes, only happy accidents. The line quality is different than I intended, but I think it makes my bat look super cool. Let's fast forward through this next part. While we wait for that to dry, we're going to put out our colors on our palette. We'll need very little pigment, either gouache or watercolor for this, so be sure to only put a small amount of each color. Also notice that I'm putting the pigment on the side of the palette cups. This is intentional. When we're painting, we're going to dip our brush into water and touch it to a little bit of pigment, bringing that stained water into the base of the cups to paint with. When we're done, we're going to test our ink to see if it's dry enough. Remember that when you add your watercolor or gouache, it might make your lines bleed a little bit. That just adds to the mystery and excitement of this particular media. But if you don't want extreme bleeding of the line, you'll want to check to make sure that it's dry. You'll also want it to be dry before you start erasing your sketch lines, otherwise your ink will smear. Again, be sure to be gentle with this step. You want your sketch lines gone, but you don't want to take the texture of your paper with it, as this is what will catch the watercolor or gouache. To paint, wet your brush a little bit and dip it in the corner of your paint on the edge of the palette cup, and bring the stained water to the bottom of the cup. Use this to paint with, adding little bits of pigment and water as needed. With watercolor or gouache, it's slightly different than the color pencils. We're going to be layering colors, meaning we're working from the lights, bringing in the darker colors, and then going over the colors methodically to bring more depth and darkness to our darks as we go. We can layer as little or as much as we want until our paper loses the texture. Again, begin with the highlights. Let's fast forward through this next part. And now I have an India ink and gouache fringed myotis. Next, I'm going to draw a Hoary bat with my tablet in Adobe Illustrator. There are a lot of free drawing softwares out there that you can make your creation in, and you don't need a tablet as high-tech as mine to do it. In fact, I'm betting a lot of you are way more experienced in your options than I am, so feel free to leave your winning combo in the comment section to let everyone know what you use. The first thing I do after choosing my source image is to find a stroke that I like and make my sketch. Same as I did with the other two. On the computer, I like to go for the gestural drawing because I can, and because I can easily change anything that doesn't look right. When I have my sketch completed, I grab the whole thing with my cursor and change the color to red so that I can see the difference between my sketch and my line in this next step. I like to use layers so that the sketches are on different planes and I can easily hide my sketch. Just like I did with my other two bats, when I put the new permanent line work, it will be more detailed, and because I'm drawing online, I can easily erase anything that I don't like with a quick Command Z. Let's fast forward through this next part. When I'm done with my outline, I make another layer and put it below my outline layer. This layer will be for highlights. The same as we did in the first drawing, I'm going to draw on the highlights I see with a color that best matches what I'm seeing. The great thing with working on a tablet is that I can easily change that color at any point by selecting all strokes that are the same color or selecting all fills that are the same color if at some point the colors don't seem right. When I'm done with my highlights, I add another layer, put it below the highlight layer, and draw in my shadows. Let's fast forward through this next part. And when I'm done with that, I can bring in my base colors. A fast way to do a base color is to outline where you want it, select the outline, and flip it. This makes it a fill color rather than the outline. And just like that, I now have a digital drawing of a hoary bat. I hope you enjoyed that little tutorial on how to draw a bat, and I can't wait to see what you come up with for the parade.